Well, hello everyone. Welcome to this new webinar. We're here with Ruby Powers from the Powers Law Group law firm. Today we're going to talk to you about the important information about the SB4 bill and everything you need to know. Ruby, well, she is an immigration attorney. She's certified since 2008 and she founded the firm in 2009. She has received many mentions as an immigration lawyer. So Ruby, the word is yours.
All right. Thank you, Maria. Yes, I'm board certified and I've been licensed for 15 plus years and board certified for about the last 10 years or so. Okay, well, let's get straight to it. In Texas, there was I think 4 special sessions. The legislature meets every other year. And one of the hot topics was for Governor Abbott, what Greg Abbott was to create some type of an immigration bill to penalize those who were not here within a legal status. And he knew he had to try to keep it a little different than Arizona's bill back in 2012, that 10 SB 1070 that went all the way to Supreme Court. But in my opinion, it's very, very similar and equally, if not more, unconstitutional. So in the end, the bill was signed approved and passed by by the legislature in mid-November 2023, and then was later signed in December of 2023 by the governor, and it's supposed to take effect March 5th, 2024. But I want you to listen. This is I'm going to give you a little history, what it's important, and some know your rights, and what the whole point of this, what this means. But I want you to understand that we should not be fearful, because there's already 2 lawsuits have been filed, and I'll just cut to the chase. I think this is going to be watered down to almost nothing by the end of March. So I'm getting a lot of calls and questions about this, and so that's why I wanted to make this video and let people know we're going to do this in Spanish as well. So bottom line, it creates a state crime for illegal entry into the Texas. Before it was civil. And also it creates this authorization to state police to arrest offenders. There's also an escalation of different severe penalties depending on if they're had a deportation order before. It increases the minimum penalty for immigrant smuggling and a sentence to 2 to 10 years for operating safe houses. So there are some smuggling aspects to the bill, but for the most part, the one that we're talking about the most is the unauthorized entry aspect. And so it classifies the first offense of unauthorized entry as a Class B misdemeanor, as a criminal charge. And then anything else after that can be increased to a state felony, which can give you a lot of problems in immigration generally. Expedited approval process without the usual opportunity for public testimony is what happened with this bill. And it was in special session number 4, which says a lot because they kept focusing on making sure that this got passed, and it got passed very quickly, without a lot of chance for people to comment and oppose. There were actually a couple of bills passed. One was the 4, which when we're talking about police can about the illegal entry, and then there's another one about more funding for barriers at the border. So, like we said, first-time offenders can face a Class B misdemeanor with up to 180 days in jail, and can be escalated. Amendments clarify the immigrants must be convicted before facing deportation, deviating from allowing state police to order their return initially, which is what they had originally tried to do. Now, we let me go back for a second and explain something. They have to have probable cause. Probable cause means there has to be some reasonable belief of some sort that the person entered illegally. But the thing is like, how can one do that? Because the law enforcement are supposed to be empowered in March, after March 5th, to be able to invoke this, regardless of where they are in Texas, which we all know Texas is gigantic, and the border is only a certain part of Texas. So in reality, this is going to take effect, supposed to take effect all of Texas, including Dallas, San Antonio, Austin, and all the other outskirts farther away from the border. But what I don't understand is how a law enforcement is going to be able to have probable cause that a person entered illegally. Now, is going to happen, unfortunately, and I'm not the only one who says this, it's in all news reports in ACLU and other places, is that there's going to be racial profiling based on stereotypes. Because honestly, what does a U.S. citizen look like? We have U.S. citizens that look all shapes and sizes. There's not one look, and there's actually not required to speak English. We make it a requirement a little bit on the naturalization, but if you were born here, you might not even still speak English. Um, and we have clients like that. This is also going to create the unfounded fear in the immigrant community due to the police force, which unfortunately, for this will be unfortunate because the police have been working so hard, law enforcement, so hard to build a community so that immigrant community would feel comfortable to communicate when they are being persecuted and harmed, and to be able to alert the police to anything when they are a victim of crime and to report when they are witnesses. So this is going to hamper this relationship that the law enforcement, and I've worked with law enforcement and trying to communicate these information out. And this is something that they see very detrimental. This will also affect the families. We have a lot of mixed status families, some who have DACA, some have citizen, some legal permanent resident, and some who have no status whatsoever in the United States. And this is going to make the family unit question where they want to live and how they want to proceed living in Texas, which is going to be harmful to the fabric of our community, our economy, and there's a potential increased risk of detention, deportation, and not to mention the psychological and social effects on the migrant community, including children from the stress. And I've seen this also disproportionate interpretation and application of the law. One area might employ this law, and another one might sort of look the other way. But then also how people are going to be trained upon it is going to take a lot of energy. This is very similar to SB4 back in 2017 that I testified against in the Senate, and also later ran for state rep, inspired because of that. And I was recently in an NPR, um, All Things Considered, as well as in some articles about how problematic this is going to be and the risk of racial profiling, amongst other things. Now, what I think we when I first was talking about this back in November and December, we knew there was going to be legal and constitutional challenges because there was something similar went to Supreme Court in Arizona bill all the way in 2012, and they said that it's unlawful and unconstitutional for an officer to arrest someone based on their immigration status, which is basically the same thing that this bill is saying, because they're saying if you authorize were you authorized entry or not, illegal entry, but how will one know without adjudicating and evaluating their status? And then by doing that, then you're going into the same reason why the SB 1070 for Arizona was deemed unconstitutional in Supreme Court in 2012. Okay, so two litigation lawsuits already happened. December of last year, ACLU and the Texas Civil Rights Project filed a lawsuit challenging the bill, Senate Bill 4, which will and they they said that it will authorize Texas judges who are not trained in immigration. I said the same thing, and have no proper authority to enforce it to order a person's deportation without due process and before they have an opportunity to seek humanitarian protection. And it poses a higher risk of racial profiling. I said that too. And and certain locations, schools and places of worship are exempt from it, but it's still, the fear is there. The fear is there. And so anyway, this is one lawsuit that we know of already, a big one, ACLU. And then the second one, well, this is really big. Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against Texas. Just not too long ago, January 3rd of 2024. And the Associate Attorney General, Vanita Gupta, said that deemed unconstitutional as the states cannot adopt immigration laws conflicting with Congress's framework. See, that's the other thing you have to understand is that immigration is supposed to be federal. And by states doing things like this, they're trying to put federal matters into their own states' hands. Um, so they said that this obstructs the federal immigration enforcement and interferes with foreign relations. And next slide is basically about what my other concern is that Mexico is against this, and it's going to impact diplomatic relations, and bilateral agreements that the United States federally is working on with other countries. And then there's international concerns of treatment of immigrants and refugees. Um, we've we've seen a prosecutorial discretion, which like a more of a kinder approach at prioritizing who should be detained and deported than others. And for the most part, if there's low crime and they've been here a while and they have children and there's like low on the priority of the totem pole, then they are getting dismissed in court. So this goes against that federal, process and approach. But this is similar to some other state legislation, which similar in that it's anti-immigrant and putting restrictions like the one that happened in Florida in that went into effect in the summer of 2023. So, this brings about a debate between the state and federal, which is federalism, on who is control, but it's federal. That's who's supposed to be in control. And then we also need to find. We still need reform, and we need to find a pathway for people, because there's a lot of people in the United States that without status, and there's a lot of people that need a humanitarian way to stay to flee for their lives. And there's a lot of people here in the US and coming to the border, but this is unconstitutional. And in the process, though, many people are going to be concerned and afraid, and that's why we're talking about this. So, okay, let's just get to the point about what happens about knowing your rights. So if you're stopped, okay, this doesn't exist yet. This is supposed to go into effect in early March, but there's already two gigantic lawsuits against it, okay? So what I want you to think about is it probably won't exist by early March. And if it is, it'll be so small. That's my interpretation, because I've been watching this a long time. And the Department of Justice sued the state of Texas because they said it's unconstitutional. That says a lot there. So I just want you to keep that in mind. But if you were stopped by local state police, you need to know your rights. You have the right to remain silent. You don't have to answer any questions about your immigration status, where you were born, or how you entered. You should never give false information, or lie to law enforcement. A limited exception does exist for people who do have permission to be in the US. I'm talking about the SB4, for a specific reason. The law does not require you to provide information about your immigration status if asked. You can still choose to remain silent or decline a request to produce your documents. If you want to know whether you fall into this category, you can call us and talk to us and we can discuss more. If you're stopped while driving and do not provide a driver's license, when a police officer asks, you'll need to provide your name, driver's license number, residence, or date of birth. This is information from ACLU thank you, we're sharing this. They recommend you carry documentation that proves you're legally lawfully present in the US or have asylum or are DACA beneficiary. SB4 prohibits enforcement in certain locations, including public or private primary or secondary school, a church, synagogue, and other established places of worship, healthcare facility, and safe, ready facility. So those areas are supposed to be safe from SB4 going into effect. Now, look, this was short. This is a hot topic. We're trying to get information out. This is already being litigated. I don't think that we have a lot of concern, and I think that the fear we can't give them into the fear that is what the intention was on this. I would say keep watching us. You can watch ACLU for Know Your Rights. Keep watching our social media. We're going to be out there in the community. We're going to do this in Spanish, and try to do in other languages as well. But if you how can you stay in touch with us and there's lots of different ways, our newsletter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and get on our newsletter. You can get you can get a newsletter every other week in English and Spanish. We have, today we did the SB4, and next week we're going to do H-1B visas and mandamus. So feel free to stay in touch with us, watch us, subscribe to our YouTube, and we'll see you next time. But please know your rights. Let's don't give in to fear on this. And I think that we're going to see this litigated to almost nothing be by March. But stay tuned and always have a consult to at least know your options in advance so that you can be calm in the knowledge of the power of knowledge that you have from that. So thank you for watching. Feel free to share with loved ones and those who think you can benefit from this, and I will see you next time.